Okay, so what you're gonna need for this build is 4 bolts. These are gonna make up the whiskers of it. In the game, you can tell they look threaded. Of course, in the pictures, if you really zoom in on them, they're barely thread. Like they look, they wouldn't actually work, but I think they're supposed to be bolts. So that's what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna, cut the heads off and weld them on. The ears are 1.5 inch flat bar. This is 3/16 thick. Just gonna, basically cut in the triangles, ground where they fit onto the helmet. Probably bend them a little bit just to give them some shape. Weld them on. And for the main body of the helmet, just an old steel helmet. This is just the surplus, a Cold War era Hungarian helmet. I got it for like 20 bucks offline. The one in the game, I do believe, is like a US M1 helmet, just by the looks of it. Hi, kitty. But those are, even remakes of them are run at least 70 bucks, so this was 20. And yeah. The only thing is it's going to take a little more modification because the ears kind of flare out a little bit. Not necessarily an issue. I personally don't like it, but it seems like a lot of helmets from the time and that general region look like that. So I'm just going to heat them up and forge them in a little bit. To anyone who's watching this who actually doesn't like when people misuse old surplus equipment, I would probably click off now because I'm going to pretty much ruin this helmet for anything other than looks. Again, this is a $20 helmet, but these are hardened steel, and it's hard to actually weld onto, so I'm going to take a torch and heat up where I'm welding, as well as, welding stuff on, and reshaping the ears a little bit. But my main plan is I'm going to, hopefully I can just wire wheel off the paint. I don't really want to have to sand it, but I will if I have to. I would definitely recommend a respirator because it wasn't labeled, but I think this thing's from like the 70s. So who knows what's in the paint. We probably don't want to breathe it in. But then of course, just cut all that stuff and weld it on. I'm going to start with cutting out these just because I have another project that requires me just kind of standing around while waiting on it to heat up. So I'll probably just do that while it's heating. If you didn't know, sometimes I work on multiple projects at once. Just, save time. I really need to paint my nails again. Okay, so now I have the whiskers. All I need are the ears. I kind of have my basic shape cut out. I just kind of held the helmet up and just kind of drew that line based on where it is. So I might have to make some adjustments later, but that won't take much. And once I get done cutting this one out, I'm going to trace it on here and make another one. And then I'll probably dome it out just a little bit so it looks more like a caddy instead of a flat piece of steel. So after looking at these, I thought they were a little too small. So I just cut them out with some 2-inch steel, which looks a lot better. Sometimes you don't want tiny cat ears. But now what I'm going to do is I had to modify my helmet. First, I'm going to remove the leather straps, which are basically just riveted on here. I'm going to just cut that off. And I'll probably just, when I put it back in, just use like pop rivets or something. And then I'm going to wire wheel this whole thing to make it just bare metal. I already have a spot there to test it to make sure it'd work, and yeah, wire wheel takes it off just fine. So that took way longer than I wanted it to, but now that it is done, I'm gonna finish mopping the helmet. I'm gonna take a torch. I'm just gonna use some MAP gas. It burns a little hotter, so I'm going to take these kind of parts that kind of go over the ears and forge them down a little bit, just because I personally like the way it flares out. Not really necessary, but I just think it looks better. I'm also going to take where I'm going to weld on all my pieces. You can kind of see here where I heat it up a bit. So that way the temper isn't as strong and it's easier to weld. As I said, this will ruin the helmet. So again, if any chance to turn back.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, the smoke coming off of that is why you should always wear a respirator. You don't want to breathe that stuff in. Most because you don't know what's in it. And that's also because I cleaned off the outside, but there's still paint on the inside. And it's kind of a pain to get it in there. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and weld my ears and whiskers on. I won't film that because I don't know if my lens and my camera will be ruined by my welder. I'm not willing to risk it, plus it's welding, it's not that interesting. But yeah, I'm just gonna weld those on real quick and then we're ready to put the liner back in. Okay, so after welding everything on, I realized I am definitely going to military collector's hell for this one. Oh well, who cares? All I have left to do is basically reattach the liner, which I said earlier, I'm just gonna use pop rivets. I only had 3/16. These holes are not 3/16, so I had to file them open a little bit. But I'd rather do that than have the next size small. It would probably be way too big. Or the hole be way too big and the rivet wouldn't work. Anyway, I'm using 3/16. Now that I have the ears and whiskers welded on, I'm going to paint it, starting with this primer, and then of course I'll put on a metal, or supposed to be metallic black, and I'll probably hand paint on the skull. Okay, so after I have the painting done, got just 2 coats of primer and then 2 coats of metallic black. I now have painter's tape on the front with my skull drawn on. This is mostly just to make sure I get within these lines. In the game, it seems to be very like speckly. I don't know if it's supposed to look worn or what, but I was at first just gonna spray paint it on, like I think most people would. But I thought that I don't think it quite look right, so I was trying to think of how to make it look like it did in the game, and I came up with where did I put that? I came up with sponges. These are labeled lateral sponges. I've been told they're sea sponges. I honestly don't know if this is true. I got them at Walmart. Basically, it's a just this textured sponge. Hi. Basically, it gives you kind of a speckled look. I used to use them to make camouflage stuff back in middle school. I used to be really big into that stuff, which you wouldn't really tell now. I mean, sort of. I was just kind of building on that, but anyway, I'm gonna use this, and I got like a neon pink that I'm gonna paint on it, and hopefully it'll look, you know, good. But first, I gotta kick the cat off the workbench and cut this out. Oh, I need a container. Jeez, this paint stinks.